And we are back with Game 2 of the St. Clair College versus University of Toronto Mississauga preseason in the CSL hosted by, or CLOL, excuse me, hosted by the CSL Collegiate Star League. I'm joined here with Daniel, Saved One Mena. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. This is going to be an awesome game number 2. We already saw game number 1. These guys also get to switch sides, so it's a little bit of a different game sometimes when you're playing on blue or red. Sometimes people are like, yeah, what's the difference? We don't really know what the difference is. Sometimes when you're playing in the bot lane, the top-down view can kind of get a little bit annoying when you're on locked screen, so that's definitely a huge factor. As well, when you're on red side, when you're on team number 2, you have an open dragon, right? You can walk right into dragon right from your base, but with Baron, there's a wall in between you and the Baron pit itself, so sometimes you're on the responsive game when you're playing on red side. So that's a little bit of a fun fact for you guys for listening at home, if you guys ever knew what the difference was. But yeah, we were seeing a lot of champions in game number 1 that were really cool to watch. So we'll see if anything changes going into this game 2.
Yep. It seemed like we had a lot of standard meta picks there. We didn't really see any niche picks. You know, we typically see Clair, GP, Syndra, Orianna. Orianna, we've seen a little more recently. That being said, game 1 being an absolute blowout here. What do you think St. Clair needs to do differently this draft in this game in order to come out victorious in game 2?
I think that their jungle communication synergy needs to be a little bit better. Because I think that Jarvan, at least my opinion, Jarvan taking the red Krugs Raptors was horrible. Jarvan can't really take Raptors all that effectively, and even after you take Raptors, you just end up being very low. And I think the only reason why he ended up doing that was because he kind of defaulted to the solo queue mindset, where you're like, I could just go back to base now, right? The enemy jungler isn't going to really be proactive, but you saw there the Lee Sin just absolutely started to pop off, right? He capitalized on that. It was a very simple red buff Krugs into enemy blue buff, and it would have been Lee Sin either trying to invade, I think that's what he was mainly going for, trying to get an invade kill, and if not, just try and get the blue buff. And that's what he ended up doing. It was very simple.
That's very, very risking pathing. Even if you're assuming that Lee Sin was starting bot side, it's still very risky, because if he is starting bot side, he's going to do his blue buff. Typically, you don't see them going for the Gromp or the Wolves early, just because those bot side camps are typically a little bit poorer as far as the Gromp and Wolves. So you see a blue buff into red buff into Krugs to hit level 3. And then from there, he might gank a lane or go for an invade like we mentioned before. And if you're full clearing bot, that's 3 camps right there. Not to mention very poor camps for J4 to take. So you're probably going to run into J4 going on your top side. Guaranteed, whether he's starting there or not. Like, he's going to clear his red buff and then invade you, or he's going to start blue buff and then clear his top side and then invade you either way. So it's very, very questionable pathing from J4. I don't, like you said, I don't necessarily agree with it. If he's going to play J4, I think he did okay in team fights that game. But I don't think the team knew how to play around it very well.
I wasn't a huge fan of the Black Cleaver. I think that a lot of the higher elo Jarvan mains are starting to realize that Black Cleaver is just not good.
It's very gold inefficient as well.
Well, when you're playing a champion like Jarvan, you need to get in the middle of a team. And of course, Cleaver does a good amount of damage and has a little bit of tanky stats, but we see at Worlds how Jarvans, they'll take the Conqueror, but they end up going Cinderhulk into Gargoyle Stoneplate. It's just super, super tanky. Try and get as tanky as possible, because you are not the carry, right? You don't have the kills early game, and he didn't really want to switch up his build for anything. It was just try and get a little bit of damage, a little bit of tankiness, but no, you have to go full on tank when you're in that state, and just try and get to the middle of a team, because like you were saying, he did his job. He got in the middle of a team and allowed Galio to ult off of him. The only thing that I could kind of see off of that is that he might not have went in at the right times a lot of the times, because Galio, in a lot of cases, would only get maybe one person off of the ult, and it would be someone on the outskirts. So it wasn't even that big of a knock up. So I think that they have to kind of shift around. I think, honestly, shift around the bot lane and just focus around them, right? Of course, the Tristana was really good, but Tristana bot lane, I think Tristana is good, but I think you could have definitely picked something better than that. Just try and play around your bot lane, because Blinn and Apex, my God, those guys are crazy together.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I definitely think Blaine and Apex played that really well last game. Getting into Champ Select for game 2 here, we see University of Toronto Mississauga ban away the Pantheon again. Not too surprised about that. St. Clair returning with the Gragas, and University of Toronto Mississauga banning the Swain. The Swain pick. We've seen it a lot. of different places recently.
Yeah, it's mainly targeting Apex because he loves to play the Swain bot lane.
Yeah.
Which is super weird, but it works. So
Yeah,
sometimes the grab definitely helps you out if you get even just a little bit of a CC. I can't remember which probably the Ashe. I think that Ashe Swain would be really good together because you just have 2 pulls coming in from Swain. So they can definitely do that, but I want to see what these guys try to adapt to. Do they change anything up or do they shift? Probably they could pick a jungler, they could pick a bot laner here, they can literally do whatever, maybe a flex coming in from any champion if they really want to do that. There you go.
And it doesn't seem like University of Toronto Mississauga here is exactly scared of anything that St. Clair brought to that table last game. We see the ban, the Yuumi, the Swain, the Pantheon. That's no champions that were played in the previous game. They're not afraid. Like, they're basically inviting St. Clair to pick what they picked last game because they know that they can play well into that. And here they are locking in the Kai'Sa again, just like last game.
And I love the Kai'Sa pick for University of Toronto because they know how to play this champion. Why fix it if it worked, right?
Don't fix it if it ain't broke.
That's sick. I love that. The Thresh counter because Apex loves to play that champion, and I think that Thresh is a very niche champion.
Yeah.
A lot of things need to fall into place in order to pick Thresh, and if you're facing something like a Kai'Sa, sometimes Kai'Sa can be a little bit immobile. But I was talking about last champion select how Kai'Sa Nautilus is just so good together, and this is exactly what they're going to pick with each other.
Basically, what this does for them, they had the Rakan last game, and although it did do the job, I just think in my opinion, Nautilus would better. Do what Rakan does better. Rakan is excellent with Xayah, of course, as we've seen previously, but Nautilus is just such a good pick right now, and his entire kit, it almost feels like Kai'Sa was designed to play with these champions.
The Camille getting picked for the top lane. We haven't seen Camille in a minute. I saw a little bit in solo queue that some Camille's are going back to jungle, but you can't stun minions anymore, or you can't stun jungle monsters anymore. So it really affects her clear. If she can do it, then that's cool. But I usually we don't see Camille jungle anymore. We'll have to see how it works out. I like the Echo ban towards the jungle. We're going to see a lot of jungle bans actually going back and forth because both of these teams actually haven't picked a jungler. So we're going to see a lot of early game junglers getting banned out. Probably some Lee Sins. Probably some Lee Sins, maybe some Jarvans. We'll see how it all pans out. But more bans over towards Toronto.
Yeah, another thing that we kind of missed here was that St. Clair actually took away the Syndra from Toronto Mississauga here. And Syndra was a huge pick for Toronto Mississauga in the last game. Completely carried the early game out of, just destroyed Orianna, made her irrelevant, and then eventually carried their team to victory. And instead of just banning the Syndra, counting Syndra, they're just going to take it for themselves here.
Why not?
And they must really be thinking that the young Falcon has fully recovered from that last game, because you could probably tell that he must have been tilted after the last game, missing Orianna ults. He played pretty well, but obviously I think he wanted to do better, and they're basically giving him another shot here, saying, hey, you know what? We think that you can carry this game. We're going to give you Syndra here, and here you go.
I think the one thing that's good is that we were hearing a little bit of the team communication going on in the other room, and they were laughing even throughout the late game, right? They weren't even tilted, and that's one thing that's really good of seeing out of a team, is that they can, even when they're losing, they can still come out. The Nunu. What?
And Willem. You can't forget about Willem.
Our producer is a huge Nunu main. Nick's really happy right now.
Yeah, exactly. And Nunu, what do you think about the Nunu pick here?
He's really good in terms of objective control, and I think that if Active Force can do that, then that will be really good. We actually ended up seeing Nunu throughout. What was it? It was through just tryouts, and it didn't do well because he didn't really know how to play Nunu. But what's good about Nunu and Will right now is that he's got a lot of tankiness, so he can really help out in terms of the tankiness on the top side of the map. Yeah. He's got a lot of utility with the stun on the biggest snowball ever, as well as the little snowballs that he can dish out. But hey, we'll talk a lot of. We'll talk a lot more about that as objectives start coming up. Lee Sin and Malphite coming into this match as well. Lee Sin, we saw it last match. It was really good. The Malphite coming out is going to be amazing.
Going mid. Malphite going mid. We see the Nautilus. We see Camille. Lee Sin's definitely going in the jungle. We know that.
Yeah. We know that for sure. We also know what's going bot lane. No, we don't. Wait a minute. Nautilus top lane.
Wait a second. That's Malphite support.
Unless
they just haven't traded
Unless they
yet.
just want to switch last second. Who knows what's going to be going on?
Interesting.
What we definitely know is what St. Clair are playing, though. I like their comp.
I really like the Poppy pick here. I think that Poppy counters a lot of what they're trying to do here. You got the Kai'Sa trying to ult in. You got Camilo going in, Lee Sin going in. Basically, I'm not sure. Does that stop the Malphite ult?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, unstoppable force. That would make sense.
It's unstoppable. So it's just an immediate bang right into.
Yes.
But you can kind of what are these guys doing? These guys are trolling around.
Kaisa top confirmed? Question mark.
It's either that or we're gonna actually see Malphite, like Ash Ketchum playing Malphite in the top lane with. I don't know.
He's running heal. You think that they're just role swapping?
Huh? Okay. There we go. Sorry. But yeah, like
interesting.
We have no idea what's gonna be going. Actually, no. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think
there we go. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
We're switching ADC. I don't know what Toronto.
Okay, I think what's going on here, Amishio is actually going to be going support. This game, he's playing Nautilus.
Yes. 1-3-2.
Malphite top, Kaisa, and Camille mid. Camille mid is kind of the off pick here. We don't usually see. What do you think about Camille mid?
We saw a lot of Renekton mid, and I think that's the only bruiser that we ended up seeing out of
Pantheon as well sometimes. Oh, sorry. My apologies.
We saw a lot of bruisers throughout the mid lane, and I think the start of that or at least throughout the LCK season and LCS, is we started to see a lot of bruisers go towards that mid lane.
Yeah.
And it was really good to see Renekton come through. We saw Vladimir a little bit. We started seeing a lot of top laners start to go mid. I think at one point we saw Colette. Aurelia was another huge one.
Yeah.
So now we get to see how Camille does versus something like Syndra, and I think that Syndra can definitely counter because Scout of the Week is just super strong versus someone like Camille that loves to bounce off of walls. If you can stop that and if you can time that correctly, Young Falcon's going to have an absolutely great time in this mid lane. And I love how he ended up choosing Poppy as a tank in the top lane because Kled, you had to focus top lane. You had to get the Kled ahead, and they weren't able to do that. So now putting Poppy in the top lane, a tank is a tank. That's what I love to say, is that regardless of what you do to Poppy, regardless of what you do to Malphite, a tank's going to be a tank at the end of the day, so you don't have to touch that lane. These junglers, though, they're really going to want to focus on the mid lane and the bot lane. It's going to be a huge factors in this match. I love Kaisa Nautilus way more than I love Xayah Thresh, but when you're facing someone like Apex, and Apex loves to play these, or at least Thresh, when he's super comfortable on it, he's going to have an absolutely beautiful time in the bot lane. When you pair it up with something like Xayah, he's going to have, these guys are going to
not to mention, when Xayah hits 6, that definitely gives Xayah a lot more of a cushion. It's going to be a little bit harder for Lee Sin to gank that lane, although Nautilus does have the ultimate. Xayah can just go invulnerable for a quick couple seconds, has the Thresh Lantern as well to try to get out there. So it's going to be a little bit of a harder lane to gank post 6. That being said, though, definitely probably, in my opinion, the target lane to gank, as you got the Nautilus set up there as well. So we talked a little bit about the bot lane. What do you think about the jungle matchup here? Because we see that Nunu and Lee Sin are typically both really good at taking objectives here.
Yeah. I don't want to smack talk Nunu, but I think that Lee Sin is definitely the better champion in this matchup, at least because Lee Sin is just really good at getting around. We saw it work wonders in the last match, and I think he's going to literally do the exact same thing in this one because of the gap closers that he has on Syndra. Syndra's going to have a really hard time in this mid lane if Lee Sin ends up camping him, and I think Lee Sin just has complete reign in the jungle presence. But if this guy's a good Nunu player, we've seen what Nunu's can do. We know that the objective game is just going to be completely in Nunu's hands. He has 2 smites. He loves getting around in terms of the snowball, as well as the absolute zero, I think is what the ultimate's called. Yeah. So I think that Nunu's going to pop off post level 6. But if Lee Sin can get around in the early game and basically get 3 kills by 6 minutes, then Lee Sin has done his job.
It's going to be really hard to kind of analyze on how this game is going to go, because we see that it almost looks like that both of these teams have counters for each other. We see that Perks fanboy here on the Camille, he's going to be able to get out of a Syndra engage, for example, by hooking to wall and getting out. And Syndra also has the same tool to counter that same ability on the engage here. As we get into game number 2 here, St. Clair College versus University of Toronto, Mississauga, excuse me.
Yep.
And looks like we see a little bit of a different start here.
Yeah, just a little bit. They all want to try and stack up this bush. I like the 5-point coming in from St. Clair. They're trying to be consistent in that sense. But University of Toronto, they're just trying to bush camp, and this is honestly a counter. They might actually try and and go for a full on full-on invade with the Thresh, a little bit of
look
a
at this.
late.
They're rotating up. They might try to start the red buff here.
Yeah, it could be a huge
Boy,
possibility.
they're going to do it. Oh, the timing of Blinn walking out. He's not paying attention.
Nice flash coming through for Xayah, but other than that, it's going to be it.
Yeah, Amishio, look at the flash hook on the Xayah there. Blinn, I just don't think he was paying attention, or maybe he was baiting it. I'm not quite sure, to be honest there.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a risky if it was a bait.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we see him both walk away. Lee Sin walking towards his blue buff to start that.
Yeah,
They're going to do the same thing as last time. I think he's going to look for a little bit more of a leash here because we see that blue buff has a little more armor than red buff does, and the red buff having a little more magic resist there. So he's going to need a little bit of help there.
Yeah, I definitely love how Lee Sin is calling over for a jungler here because red buff usually it gives you the sustain in the jungle, so Lee Sin can do that on his own. But now he's calling over for the top lane support. Both of the junglers actually starting on the top side, and I love what Active Force is doing here. Just try and take the snowball and not waste any time. Sometimes milliseconds actually really do count. Right? Seconds even count, because if you're not somewhere at the correct second, then you could have lost on a kill.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of counter ganks, especially in Worlds recently, where junglers, like, they're responding at the exact same second that they need to be there. And if you're spending like less time, and hold that thought just 1 second, Nuno, just taking the really big snowball into the mid lane here. Lee Sin's gonna come. He might go for a counter. We've talked about counter ganks, how important it is here. Lee Sin gonna land the Q on the minion, not gonna connect on the Nuno. And that's just gonna be a little gentleman's agreement there to back off.
Yeah, both junglers missing all of their skill shots, so they say good day, sir, and they walk back into their own jungle. We do see Nunu though, seeing exactly what he can do in terms of jungle rotating pressure. Definitely wanted to try and disrupt Lee Sin in all of his jungle clearing ways. So now Nunu gonna go back. Another stalemate coming in from this one.
I would not be surprised at all, though, if they return gank mid, because I do think mid lane, although it is a really small lane and it's like they're pretty close to their turrets, I do think that both champions have pretty good setup. And look what we see here. Lee Sin's already returning. Camille's going to go in. Flash Eon Hawk Falcon here. And then, oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, so they're going to pick up first blood on Syndra. Burning Syndra's flash as well, mind you. So neither champion mid having flash, but hang on a second. Lord is going to do a little bit of damage to Ashe. He's going to shove that wave in. I would not be surprised to see him back off here, though, as we see Lee Sin rotating to the top side. Just stay around a little bit. That wouldn't be a terrible back, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say is that Poppy usually wins this matchup in terms of the early game, just because Poppy is really, really good at bullying her opponent. When it kind of becomes a little bit more similar is when Malphite ends up getting boots.
And
bot lane,
huge snowball here.
That was
Cancel
sick.
the Nautilus.
That was sick.
He's going to get rooted in. Xayah potentially picking up. Blinn will pick up the kill onto the Nautilus here. Amishio's going to fall. Didn't have flash. He must have burned. Oh yeah, that's right. He burned that on that invade level 1. They took advantage of that. That's really good of Active Force to recognize that they burned the flash early, and that's a good lane to set up a kill. And there you go.
Yep, that definitely really good coming out of St. Clair. But in the top lane, he just kind of showed himself.
Yeah,
just kind of showed himself, and he didn't want to go for it, which is a good call.
Yeah. Personally, I think that's a pretty good decision to not back off there, especially, oh my goodness. We got a lot of action here in this early game. I love it. This is way different than last game. We saw the early fight mid, and then it kind of slowed down after that.
And it's what I was talking about in Champion Select, is that when you have someone like Apex and he knows how to play the Thresh, he's definitely really good at capitalizing on a lot of these mistakes. So we hopefully get to see a little bit more Thresh play out of him, because so far from what we've seen, he's played a really good game.
Yeah, already. We saw the fight bot just now. We saw a little bit of going on earlier. And yeah, look at, seems like top lane. Poppy still has not gotten a recall. So honestly, if I was Lee Sin here, I think that's a pretty good lane to gank.
Yeah, sure. Definitely really good coming out of both of these junglers in terms of priority on where they want to go. Can be a little bit faster from young Falcon. He has to be a little bit more responsive to that hook shot off the wall, because from what we saw in that early gank, he was just super surprising, right?
Yeah.
Hook shot onto the wall and just immediate flash onto you can be huge sometimes. But Nunu doing Nunu things. Let's see if he actually goes for this. Because they do have priority around this river. Lee Sin doesn't know either.
Yeah, it will be really interesting. Because Lee Sin does not have any vision on the dragon. He has no idea where Nunu is. He's going to look for something mid here, but I don't know. No, not going to connect on the Q there. Both just going to walk out, pop potions, get back to farming. But I would like to see a little bit more priority around this dragon right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a huge priority coming in for both of these junglers. You can kind of see Nunu going in, the hook landing.
Oh yeah, here they go here. Blend gonna, oh, Apex Snipe actually gonna take that kill there. And we got a teleport coming in for the Poppy trying to join the fight. A little bit late, not gonna get anything there. Poppy gonna need to go back top lane. ASAP there. Malphite just freezing that wave there. And that's gonna be a nice pickup for Mississauga here.
Yeah, definitely a really nice, a single kill at least going over. I think it was 1 for 1 at the end of the day, but Kaisa ended up getting just 1 kill, which is really good for herself, netting herself a pickaxe. Early game, but now she gets to go back to base. Young Falcon
gonna go all in here, and the Ignite will finish off Burst Fanboy. Really good read there by the Young Falcon, knowing exactly how much damage his abilities were going to do.
When he's playing something like a Syndra, it's a little bit better than Orianna, because Orianna, of course, can push out the lane early, but once Syndra starts to get a couple of items, then the burst is just super, super insane. I remember way back when Syndra was meta, it was just press R and win game. So now you're starting to see Syndra. She has to land all of her abilities, and then she wins the game. But it's still really, really good.
They're being rewarded for that as well.
There you go. Yeah, so it all makes sense right now. Nunu also trying to get into the enemy jungle and just try and do Nunu-type things, which is really good. Trying to take the blue buff here. It's usually what you want to try and do is Nunu. Try and, or at least if you see the jungler on the opposite side of the map, just try and go into the enemy jungle.
And that's exactly what we saw. We saw Lee Sin's clearing a ward around the dragon. They knew that he was bot side. Malphite just recalled. So really good communication by St. Clair there to try to take that blue buff. But that being said, Lee Sin's going to go for the dragon here unseen. No wards.
You can also see Apex. He kind of knows what's going on here. Obviously, if he tries, or if he wants to try.
Oh, he's going to look over and he's going to be seen. That's a really healthy dragon.
You can see the ping going down onto it. So they know that they're on it. Nunu, obviously not in the area, and no one can really follow up. Mid lane having priority for Camille, and bot lane having priority for their own lane. That's gonna mean a dragon.
Now, we saw this last game where Toronto Mississauga was doing a really, really good job in the early game, taking objectives with their lane priority, and we see it here again. And now might actually end up trading blue buffs as well. So Nunu kind of had a little bit of an early trade there with blue buff, but oh my goodness.
Nice
Apex Snipe gonna land the hook, and then Zaya's gonna be rooted as well. Blend still has the ultimate available. There he pops it right there, takes the lantern, and they're just gonna walk out. With that being said, we got a fight going on the other side of the blue buff. Burst Fanboy getting caught by Active Force and Young Falcon. Okay, he's gonna land the Q on the Young Falcon, and oh my goodness, and he's gonna get the last auto attack, and he's gonna live it. That being said, we still have more action going on the bot side as well. Active Force flashing out, joining the bottom fight now. Oh, it doesn't quite get out late on the lantern there, but Active Force is trying to run away, smiting for HP. Apex Snipe also getting hit by the Camille. Apex Snipe is going to get out. He will.
Tried to do something a little bit cheeky, trying to get the hook off. Couldn't do that, which is kind of unfortunate. Lee Sin trying to look for literally whatever he can here if he wants to look for a dive. Lord in the top lane, though. It's acting a little bit more aggressive, as we know that Poppy absolutely wins this. Into Malphite at least before, or even after level 6. Malphite usually starts to pop off once team fights come around, obviously, because Unstoppable Force is just kind of crazy.
Yes, and now that the fighting has kind of slowed down a bit, we've had it early, a lot of aggression early. I'd like to take a moment to shout out our sponsors for the stream here. We got St. Clair, SRC, St. Clair Alumni Association, Subway Canada, DX Racer, St. Clair College itself, Zekelman School of Business, and PC Outlet? Is that? Yeah, PC Outlet. So thank you guys so much for supporting this. We could not put this on without you guys.
Yeah, we're sitting in DX Racers right now.
Yeah, really comfortable.
Exactly. Nice little sponsor. But Syndra going to be taking that blue buff, which is really good for herself. Nunu just doing Nunu things. What was kind of unfortunate is that Nunu actually ended up invading the enemy blue buff, but what he needs to try and prevent is the invade into his own jungle. If he can do that, then that'll be really good, right? So because invading is just one part of doing Nunu. The next part is trying to prevent the Lee Sin, or even trying to predict where Lee Sin is going to go, and unfortunately was not able to do that. So we need to watch Active Force as he starts to make his way around throughout these lanes.
I think another thing that is really important about Nunu is not only counter-jungling Lee Sin, but counter-jungling Lee Sin while he's at his buff. Because that way he's wasting his time trying to get that blue buff, wasting his time trying to get that red buff, and he's able to just outsmite just because he has the, and here he goes here. He's going to go right on first Fanboy. But first Fanboy, like we mentioned before, just has that easy out.
Yeah. Nice little game coming in from Nunu, and you didn't waste any time. You just walk into the mid lane with your snowball, see what you can land. If you can land anything, great.
Built-in win, Drake.
Exactly. And if you can't, you walk right on back into your own jungle. You do, however, give a little bit of information to the enemy on where you are. So that's why Lee Sin was trying to group up in this top side, maybe try and get a little bit of Rift Herald control.
Yes, 11 minutes into the game, Rift Herald being up.
There you go.
Definitely going to have to be a little bit of a priority. We see a little bit of action for vision control around the bot lane, but I really do think in a matchup like this, where Lee Sin and Nunu are both really good at finishing off that Rift Herald, you probably want to see a little bit more help there because it's going to feel like almost an even competition, and especially on the side of Toronto Mississauga. Would you agree that bot lane has to try to rotate up there?
I think that that's definitely a possibility, but so far from what we've seen out of Blinn is that they have complete control over this bot lane. They're really good at synergizing together, and I think that they need to just kind of work on getting Blinn ahead a little bit through CS, because you can't really gank this lane all that well. We've already seen Nunu try and do that, but in the top
Lord
lane...
Touch Me gonna go for all under the tower, pops the ultimate, not quite gonna finish Ash Ketchum. He's gonna get another bonus plating here. Yeah, plus 160.
That's it. That's all you really got to look for. Sometimes Nunu coming into the top lane.
He's standing way too close to his turret there. Lord is just gonna get the stun and finish off the Malphite there for a free 1 for 0. Not to mention the plating that was previously got in. Look at all of this farm.
It's great.
That he's missing here.
Definitely really good. Ash still having the TP available on the Nunu, or on the Malphite. Oops.
Happens to the best of us.
Happens. But Nunu now has complete control over this top lane. The only thing that's kind of preventing him from taking this Herald, or at least taking this Herald without contention, is that there is the Scuttler available on it. They already see that Lee Sin.
They are aware.
You already see that Lee Sin's on that bot side. See if it goes uncontested here.
I would not be surprised. I could definitely see a Camille Malphite run potentially, because Camille, all she got to do, does she have T-Mac? I'm not sure, but hang on a second. Amishu gonna go all in on Apex Snipe. Apex Snipe walking away with barely low HP. Almost connects the hook on Amishu to pull him back underneath the tower. Barely gonna escape out alive there. And Blinn, getting a little bit of return damage, but Lee Sin showing up as well. They might potentially look for a dive. Lands the Q on the minion. Does not have flash available.
Yeah. Just back off away from the tower. You don't really need to defend any plates, right? If a couple of plates go down, what's that even mean? In the mid lane, though, hook shot is down.
Yes, first burn. That does not connect on Scatter the Meek. Getting him low enough. All he has to do is get him a little bit more low, and then can pop the ultimate. Young Falcon going to stall a little bit of stopwatch. Active Force, Poppy, the Storm. Going to finish off Perks fanboy.
Yeah, really good gank going into the mid lane there. Camille just hook-shotting for no reason whatsoever, which is amazing. Lee Sin, though, might have his own catch.
Yes, and here we go. Nice kick from Alcazar. Going to land on that. Amazing lantern. Flesh almost connected there. And something that kind of went unnoticed there in that last fight was that Malphite actually tried to channel his TP into the fight, but Poppy did a really good job at canceling that TP from Malphite.
What I was saying earlier is that Poppy usually wins this lane early, but if she can continue this momentum and not get camped whatsoever, then she's going to completely just take over this top lane and maybe even over this topside jungle. Usually what we see out of junglers is they'll take obviously that first tier 1, or top laners, not junglers. What we'll usually see out of them is they'll try and target this top side, get the top lane tier 1, and with the jungler try and invade this top side jungle, and all of a sudden they have just complete control over the top side of this map, which means complete control over Baron. That's coming up in just about 6 minutes. So already we're seeing just kind of the skeleton of what can become a really good top side camp.
Yeah, I could not agree more with you, Daniel. And now, what I'd really like to see here is, we haven't seen a turret fall yet, but Apex Snipe, he's actually going to be roaming mid. Lord is going to be around as well. Perks fanboy going to use the hook shot to get out there.
Lord had the flash available if they really wanted to commit to something like that.
To something here. Oh, Lord is going to go in, but just walk away. A little bit of poke damage with the E there. Being said, red team got Nunu summoning Rift.
There we go.
This might be the first turret that we were looking for right here.
Yeah.
Definitely will. Yeah, it's going to get the charge off.
Yeah. So first turret, going to go right on over to St. Clair, which is really good. That sometimes you just need to take the Rift Herald and get 1 tower, right? Sometimes you can't get the remaining couple hundred health that a turret has. Just place down Rift Herald. right? And it will net your team a lot more at the end of the day. Poppy also forcing, exactly. Malphite, since he did go into the mid lane to try and respond to literally whatever he could find, Poppy ended up getting the top lane as well, and she's able just to stay up here. It's still 15 minutes, right? Yep. You don't need the ball lane to go up for another 5 minutes, so you can just kind of stay. You can keep the Poppy up here and try and attract whatever jungle pressure needed. Usually we can't actually see Lee Sin ganking a lane like Poppy because of the little wall, the W that she's got. So that's why Lee Sin hasn't really been going top lane up.
Yeah, and I don't blame him either. I definitely think that Syndra and Xayah are definitely higher priority targets, because although you could technically gank top lane, what exactly are you doing? But hang on a second. Alkays are going to go on to Young Falcon here. Young Falcon scattering the weak to send him away.
Yeah, didn't actually end up landing the sphere itself.
They're still going. Nunu is going all in here. Doesn't decide to pop the Glacial Storm there.
Yeah, it's also a little bit unfortunate that Nunu didn't have the backup, because he was ready. You saw it. He really wanted to flash in and start using Absolute Zero, but he just wasn't really. He didn't have the backup. The Syndra just didn't really want to go in there, which is fine, right? Usually, when you still have your tier 1 in the mid lane and you're facing a lane that doesn't have the tier 1, you just kind of want to farm it out, right? Just try and get a couple of more items. We'll see if that ends up happening.
It's not the end of the world either for Camille to lose that tier 1 either. If it was someone like Syndra that lost that tier 1, that's absolutely crucial, because when you're a control mage, you definitely need the support of your turret there in order to not be caught out. Because like, think about if Syndra was to pop up over there, but hang on, what is this? Perks is going to go in. Apex Snipe landing an amazing hook onto him. Blend going to land the root as well. Lee Sin landing the Q onto Blend, but he's going to hold it, wait for the ult to come out, and then, oh my goodness, he's still alive. Blend flashing out. Alkazer is going to fall. Perks fanboy fell just before that, and that is going to be a free turret as well for St. Clair College.
Yeah, definitely really good getting a tower in the bot lane as well. Usually what you like to do is just towers in every single one of these lanes. You already got top lane tier 1, you already got mid lane. What's next? It's bot lane. Try and dive it, try and camp it, literally whatever you can do. And they just did it absolutely perfectly. St. Clair, so far, taking this matchup 3K, which is amazing, and they want more.
Yeah, look at Apex Snipe actually going to tank a few hits there. They see that they only have 3 minions there, so I don't blame them trying to get a little bit more damage there. But Hooking Lord isn't going to do that much for you. That's a little bit of a greedy stay on Ishio. Going to have to flash out there. He's going to ult onto Lord. Everyone's following up here.
I think
Xayah recall, they need to get out now.
I was going to say that Xayah might need to stay if they did want to try and go for something there. A really nice Lantern coming out. What we've seen out of Apex is him using his Lantern a lot to get priority targets out of huge situations. The Poppy was just able to tank up as many towers as honestly she wanted to. She already has Spectres. She already has the Sunfire Cape. She's slowly getting the Spear Visage, but then she also has the Armor Boots. So she was completely fine tanking that tower for literally however long she needed to. And throughout this whole entire time, Malphite smacking away at the top lane tower.
Yeah, he's good. That turret's going to fall right there. That's pretty important as well. We see the Dragon coming up as well. I'm not quite sure which Dragon it is coming up. You mentioned Apex Snipe. He's done a phenomenal job so far. He's landing these hooks in tight situations. And St. Clair, they're able to play a lot more greedier than they typically were last game, because they have the Lantern to like get out of tricky situations.
Yeah, Kaisa going back to base, wanting just a reset for this Dragon that's coming up. Both teams really, really want this one from the amount of priority that's on it. It's going to be a Wind Dragon, which is still fine, right? A Wind Dragon for both of these sides would be awesome. From what we've been seeing so far is that St. Clair really love to rotate throughout these lanes as fast as possible, and you can really, really do that with a Wind Dragon underneath your belt.
Yeah, and something that we haven't really talked about too much this game, we see the Wind Drake now. It's going to allow them to rotate a lot faster. What do you think both of these teams' win conditions are this game?
From what we've been seeing so far, I think that St. Clair loves to take objectives, and that's what they've kind of been playing around, which is really good, because that's what their comp is meant to do. Try and get the Nunu over to an objective, and you immediately secure it, just with having basically 2 smites. Your Q at this point does around 900 to 1,000 damage, and with the smite added on top of that, since you're level 10, you're kind of having around a 600 smite. So at 1600 HP on an objective, you can easily Q smite that, and you've already secured it. For Lee Sin, that's going to be a huge problem because Lee Sin loves to take objectives, but when you have someone like a Nunu, it's really hard to 50-50 a Baron. It's really hard to take Baron at that because you're just so good at getting in the middle of the team. What we saw earlier on was Nunu, even though he was kind of collapsed on by 3 people, he was still able to get out because of how tanky he is. He's slowly trying to build up his dead mans. We can see that right there. Apex.
I'm not going to connect there, and then Lee Sin kicking Apex back into the team. Apex is going to go. Young Falcon going to have to pop the stopwatch there.
This is really good.
Oh my goodness. Kai'Sa's going to shut down Apex there. Oh, Malphite flash ulting, landing a 3-man knockup. Camille going to finish off Syndra as well.
It's fine.
Ash Ketchum, but might get out here. Pops the stopwatch, gonna have to walk out. No, he's gonna fall to Blinn in the turret. Blinn gonna finish off Ash Ketchum there. 1, 2, 3 ADS just barely walking out of a flash Q from Lord Touch. Oh my goodness, there it is. Lord Touch shuts down the Kai'Sa. But Perks is falling as well. Blinn gonna do too much damage.
That was insane,
Arcus just wanted to help out, but he's gonna fall as well, and that's gonna be an ace for St. Clair College, and now they're gonna start the Baron.
And even the Baron at that, the whole entire team fight, you just have to watch what Zai is doing, what Blinn is doing, where he's positioning. Even though Malphite ended up getting a 3-man ultimate there was no one that could follow up. Malphite, he's not full AP Malphite, he's full tank Malphite. So he doesn't really have any follow-up if he does knock up 3 people. Blinn, just with perfect positioning throughout that whole entire fight. Even though Apex ended up dying, even though Young Falcon ended up dying, it was still fine at the end of the day because Blinn was able to output a lot of damage. The one thing that Xayah is really good at doing is fighting in tight corridors. And if you noticed, that's exactly where she was fighting. And her main focus was literally whoever was in front of her and was able just to get off a recall on a lot of priority targets and was able to position absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, I could not agree more. That looked really, really bad for St. Clair at the start. We saw Apex get caught out by the Lee Sin, kicking them back into their team. Young Falcon also got pretty low, but then Blinn joined the fight and just completely took them apart.
Yeah, it was absolutely perfect positioning coming out of Blinn. We get to see if he can continue doing that throughout these matches. The only problem with having so many Mountain Dragons is when you can't actually use them. Yeah. You're not able to get onto towers, you're not able to get onto big objectives like Dragon, because Dragon now is in full on control of Nunu, as well as Baron. Baron's already taken. The one thing I do want to see out of St. Clair is better communication, because right now, they're kind of wondering, what are they doing right now? They need to get into a lane and try and take a tower, and that's usually how you try and crack open these tier 2s. You need a huge pick, or you need something like Baron.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Oh, but Nautilus is going to cock him.
He's going to go in.
He's actually going to take it, drop the box. Nautilus is going to ult the Nunu and knock up Thresh as well. Apex getting really, really low here, but Lee Sin not going to be able to finish off. Blinn is going to finish off Lee Sin. Nautilus barely getting out with 1 HP. Oh, boy.
Yeah, still really good
1, 2, 3.
fight.
They're going to die for him.
Yeah, they're going to try and go for this right here.
The snowball. Kai'Sa going to ult, try to juke it, going to get the shield, but just going to get caught out by Lord anyways. Apex Snipe still hanging it on with just under 100 HP. Yeah, they're going to get that turret. They're going to try to get more here. They still have Baron. They might be able to close out the game here. They got 30 seconds on Kai'Sa.
They've got a lot of seconds left to kind of play around with literally whatever they want to do. They're probably only going to get an inhibitor here. If they do get a pick, then definitely they can try and go for something more. But Lee Sin coming up in just 2 seconds, right? You just got to try and get out and just kind of take what you came for. Really nice mid-game and even a Baron power play being played so far by St. Clair because, like I was saying, is that you either need a pick or you need Baron.
Oh, just barely gets out there.
Yeah, the ultimate would have stopped it, but could not throw down the Hextech ultimatum, which is kind of unfortunate. Yeah. But it's still all good. St. Clair, they now get to... they now get to reset.
Yeah, we've seen St. Clair definitely play a lot more clean this game.
Yep.
Definitely cleaned up their act from the first game. We saw a little bit, last game, as much as they have,
nice stun.
Sorry, 1 second. Nice stun there on the first, but he's going to get out there. That being said, wow, flash away from Amishio as well. They're just burning all of their subs here. But what is there anything that you think that Mississauga can do to get back in this?
I think that a really good team fight can really... I guess bring them back, and the one thing that's really cool is that since Kai'Sa is behind, she's going to be going for the Nashor's Tooth here, and because usually when you're playing Kai'Sa, you need to get into the middle of a couple of people in order to start doing a lot of damage. Yeah. But when you're kind of behind like this, you can't really do that. So using the W, the Kai'Sa W, is going to allow you to get a lot of poke off in a lot of these mid lane engages and even the mid lane skirmishes. So we can kind of see just every couple of seconds, we're just going to see the W go down the lane.
Not to mention, on the side of Toronto Mississauga, they don't exactly have that much magic damage built into their kits. Yes, they have Malphite, but he's going full tank. Yes, they have Nautilus, but he's going full tank.
Yeah.
So definitely that on-hit build from Nash's will probably give them a little more magic damage, but even then, like, look at Poppy right now. She's 3-0-4. She's huge. She has Spirit Visage built as well. It's going to be really hard for them to try to get through those tanks.
She's going to be trying to build the Frozen Fist here from what we see. We see the Sheen Glacial Shroud coming out for her. We also see the Nunu going for a little bit more of a tankier build, which is really good because Active Force needs that. At least him as a player is really good at building these tank junglers. Hasn't really adapted to the whole damage meta just yet, which is fine. You play towards your team's strengths, and it could really help you out in that sense. They really want to try and take this
Shield gonna get caught out here, though.
That's awesome.
Oh my god, an excellent hook from Apex as well to follow up. Glenn is gonna end up slaying them. And stopwatch? Stopwatch pop from Young Falcon. All right, better safe than sorry,
Exactly.
I guess. Yeah. I believe Kaisa landed a W there as well, so they could have all in. But look at Malphite gonna get the flash out only on the Xayah, though. Gonna get hooked as well. Glenn doing so much DPS. Young Falcon gonna finish Ash, catch him there. And that's going to be 2 for 0, and it's 5v3 right now. They're looking for more.
It's so incredibly good when the Malphite engages and you have somebody to zone off the rest of the team, because Camille was on the flanks ready to go in and was not able to do so because Poppy was right there saying, test me. Try and go in, and I'm not going to allow you to do so. A huge wave in the bot lane as well as mid lane. They're going to just try and take that and maybe try and rotate towards the top side. It's a very easy League of Legends play.
Yeah, definitely very well communicated right now. You see them. They took the bot side, so what do? They rotated mid to try to get that while they had the pressure going in the bot lane. Now they're rotating top because that's all that's left. And then after that, you got Baron coming up in a minute, and then I would imagine that they're just going to look for this turret, reset, wait for the prio to come in through the bot lane, someone respond to it, and then just take the Baron.
This is just one of those free towers that you can take for yourself. Don't go for anything more.
Oh, Apex landing an amazing one.
I just ate my words, man.
Yep, exactly. Kaisa as well doing a lot of DPS. Gonna get hooks as well.
Double kill.
Lynn getting a double kill on the Malphite there as well. But look at Kaisa just doing as much as she can, trying to do so much damage. But we talked about this. You can't get through those.
This guy's
tanks.
insane,
Apex
bro.
With another hook. Oh my goodness. It was what, 3 hooks in that fight?
That was insane, man.
And
Apex.
All that's left is Ame Shield here to try to defend this.
I'm almost speechless at the end of that fight because Apex ended up landing like you said, 3 hooks. This dude was just, who's next? Who's next? Who's next? 4. Let's get it.
Ame Shield gonna have to hook back into his own fountain just to protect his KD. He's not gonna be able to defend this here. And game 2 is gonna go to St. Clair College.
This guy. Whew. Why didn't he pick Thresh in the first game?
Just pick Thresh for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you got to do. 20-6 at the end of that game with a 13K gold lead. St. Clair, they definitely cleaned it up that match.
Yeah, they definitely played so much better. Almost a mirror of last game, except the teams were flipped. I don't know. Maybe it's just red side.
Something like that. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what St. Clair can do in this next match. But definitely, really awesome game coming in. That was a fun one. Yeah, as well as we get to kind of see what the jungler of St. Clair can really pull out if given the opportunity. And Nunu's his pick.
I mean, he definitely seemed a lot more comfortable on Nunu than he was in the previous game. As much as he was trying to do stuff for his team in the first game on J4, it seemed like his team didn't know what to do with it. Nunu kind of staying with his team a little bit more, being like that tank to try to prevent them from getting onto their carries like Blinn. Like, think about it. How much peel did Blinn have in that game?
It was just insane amounts. It was literally just, guys, stand as a wall in front of me, and I'm gonna work wonders, and that's exactly what he did. A beautiful game being played by Blinn and Apex. Like I was saying in game number 1, is that they need to do that. They need to play around their ball lane, and they definitely did that here in this match. We're heading into game number 3.
Game 3.
So this is going to be awesome.
3, yeah,
exactly. So we'll talk a lot more about the game itself once Champion Select comes up, but I think we both need a little bit of a breather. So we will be right back with game number 3 of University of Toronto Mississauga versus St. Clair College.